technology is the most powerful change in the world of education. Welcome to the video interview series, Augmented Reality-Based Technology in the Classroom, delivered to you by Clever Books Company.
Hello listeners, hello our readers. We have today a fantastic guest, Monica, who joined us for our interview and video interview podcast for Augmented Reality-Based Technology in Education. Hello Monica.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being with us today, and it would be great to hear your professional opinion about implementing immersive technologies such as augmented reality in the classroom, and I hope that you can share with us your professional opinion and also maybe some case studies, if you have, from your professional experience.
Absolutely.
I'd appreciate if you can tell me a little bit more about yourself, what you do, and what your experience is.
So I am a former New York City public school teacher. I'm still based in the New York and New Jersey area, but I've been out of the classroom for a few years, hosting professional development for teachers, spending time in classrooms, working with students, as well as writing about education technology in my books, as well as on my blog, classtechtips.com. So a lot of time spent in different places, in schools, working with teachers in more regional settings, as well as writing about education technology.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure that as a practical expert and also having such a lot of experience in writing about this topic, you can share with us valuable information that teachers and other educators can use and hopefully implement in their classroom as well.
Well, very excited to speak with you today.
Yes, can you tell me a little bit more about your experience with augmented reality?
So I was introduced to augmented reality educational apps as a classroom teacher when I was out just in kind of learning mode and experiencing some different augmented reality opportunities for classroom integration. And so I started using some low-level kind of ready pre-made triggers type of augmented reality experiences with students as a classroom teacher. And then after I left the classroom, I started doing work with an organization called Lit World. They're the folks behind World Read Aloud Day. They're a nonprofit based here in New York. So I started helping them do some work specifically around literacy and technology. It ended up being the focus of my doctoral work as well. But part of that included developing some interactive library spaces for them. So in that role, we were creating augmented reality experiences, designing triggers as posters within a library space, and curating resources to really show off some different types of experiences for families and students that were interacting with the library space. And so that work evolved into a book that I wrote that was published by Corwin Publishing on QR codes and augmented reality in the classroom. And so the idea behind that book was the development of a framework called the ACES framework, which I use to talk about scannable technology integration, access, curate, engage, and share. And so that framework is one that I've applied to other types of tech integration experiences. It's also featured in my newer book, Tasks Before Apps, published with ASCD last year. So my experience with kind of scannable tech, or augmented reality specifically, started very much as an observer of low-level integration, bringing that into classroom settings, and then developing more customized experiences for an organization that was looking to connect resources with families in an engaging way.
And in terms of creating the AR experience in the classroom, did you use already existing applications that have already set scenario, or did you use applications where the kids and teachers can actually create augmented reality on their own?
In the classroom, I was using pre-made apps. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago at this point. So very kind of early on was using pre-made apps, trigger experiences already set. Then when I left the classroom to work with an organization, we were curating resources specifically to connect to different augmented reality kind of scannable spaces. We also brought in some pre-made apps for some of the storytelling activities we did with students in that setting as well. So that was part of that kind of curriculum or kind of coursework with families in that way. And I've also had the chance to speak to and interview and work with in kind of more of a marketing, sharing their story type of way with different AR companies as well.
Can you share some challenges that educators face, as well as probably educational organizations who bring augmented reality-based technology to the corporate use or to educational purpose? What are the most common ones?
One thing that's an issue just across the board with any kind of tech integration that is a little heightened with augmented reality is the connectivity of issue where schools may or may not have a strong or robust wireless network, and that causes any of the streaming component of interaction with AR tools to be a little buggy and a little bit hard for integration. But I would say probably the largest issue is really making sure that there are conversations around the thoughtful connection to content area goals, to simulations or experiences that will support what we want students to experience in the classroom. I know, you know, right, people who are in the space understand and appreciate the value that augmented reality can have when it is really thoughtfully integrated into student learning goals. I think sometimes outsiders see any type of emerging technology as being gimmicky or not, you know, a little too fluffy perhaps, where I think that's an issue across the board of just communicating how powerful these experiences can be to help students understand and appreciate the content that they're interacting with.
And in terms of the feedback that you receive from educators, from organizations, the way that actually this AR experience would benefit the kids, can you share a little bit more information on this?
One of my kind of favorite experiences with augmented reality really has to do with students' just general engagement within connection to resources. So they might be scanning to simply access information similar to the way they would with a QR code. And in that case, though, they're really have their eyes glued to the content that's popping off their screen. So they're able to have an experience that's just very high interest and connecting them with things that might feel like more traditional, like a video of a read aloud or a sing-along song to reinforce literacy skills, yet they're interacting with that content in a different way. The other piece really has to do with the ability to, you know, spin something around, to move something, to really interact with a particular type of simulation where students just would never have that experience with any other type of hands-on or digital opportunity.
And how do the students themselves see such activities? Are they excited, and what emotions do they have when they first introduce such innovative approach?
I think there's a lot of that surprise, a lot of the aha moments when they figure out exactly how something works, which is really exciting to watch and be a part of. So I think there's that initial like flashy, wow, look at this moment, but then we're able to really transfer that into high interest, right? That flow of learning where students are moving and spinning and touching their screen and really able to interact with the content more so than just saying this looks like a fun game that I play during other parts of my day.
And from your perspective, what would be the main three benefits of the kids' learning?
Yeah, so I think one big one on the list for me is the ability to give students experiences they just wouldn't have at all, right? Whether it's giving students the opportunity to interact with content, to watch something, to view something that they just wouldn't have access to if it wasn't for the augmented reality component. So if you think about a video popping off the page of a textbook, right? Something they just wouldn't be able to watch without those kind of experiences, or that wouldn't be able to embed within a particular opportunity. And then I think the second piece is really just that hands-on simulation, which connects to that idea of extending into a space where students might not necessarily have the opportunity to interact with content, but also the fact that they can have repeated practice, they can have simulations, that they are interacting with a particular component, spinning something around in their hand, looking at things from different angles. So just the ability to interact with content in a new way, I think is really empowering. And then the third piece, I think, really comes down to less of the consumption and more of the creation. So there are tools where students can create augmented reality experiences, or they can apply the content that they've learned into a simulation that they make themselves. So I think, although the first two might seem more of a content consumption and interaction, that third, big thing I'm excited about is the ability for students to create their own experiences for an audience as well.
There are a couple of discussions going on about the use of augmented reality technology to benefit kids with special needs. Have you come across any professional opinions, or maybe from your experience on this topic?
I mean, just from my own experience, I've worked with students who are of a variety of needs with this type of technology, and it's been really accessible for them in terms of, giving them the opportunity to jump right in right away. There hasn't been any type of piece that's prohibitive. I do have an Apple Distinguished Educator colleague. She's worked with students in a low-incidence special needs environment and is very passionate about the use of augmented reality to connect students with content. So I've had the chance to visit their school in New Jersey to see some of the ways that they've used augmented reality to share student creations and share student content in interactive displays, and that's been really exciting as well.
Okay, and when you said that you have a colleague who's implementing augmented reality for kids with special needs, can you give an example of what type of special needs?
So in this case, in this particular population, it's students, many of whom are wheelchair bound, who are struggling with different motor skills as well. So, they're able to use a tablet to scan a specific area to watch media pop off, or with the help of a teacher, they're able to interact with a device in a space that way.
Well, thank you very much. It's very interesting. In terms of bringing the technology to school, I'm sure there are a lot of schools that haven't used augmented reality yet. And what would be your personal suggestion for teachers who are still a little bit reluctant due to different reasons to bring such immersive technologies and try it out? What would you suggest them, and where they can look, and what they should start?
So I often share pre-made augmented reality experiences with teachers, so where they can go online and print off a trigger image, whether it's a coloring page, whether it is something that's just pre-made and ready to go. And in this way, they can jump right into these augmented reality experiences by downloading an app and having the trigger image ready without having to feel intimidated with diving into a space to create their own augmented reality experiences. By no means is it to say that these beginning teachers couldn't handle that type of software or building, but I think for just getting their confidence in a place where they have an instant win, they see the value, they're ready to jump in, pre-made augmented reality experiences where they have a trigger image and students can use an app to scan are really powerful. And so I'll often, when talking to teachers, when I don't really know what their content area goals are, so say I'm speaking to a group of 75 people as opposed to having a one-on-one conversation in a coaching role, I'll suggest a very kind of entry-level use cases, like giving students an opportunity to interact with an augmented reality trigger and then do a creative writing assignment related to it. So use it as a prompt for writing after they see a shark that they've colored pop off their page, right? So something that wouldn't necessarily be a very high-level use case, but gets the students interested and understand, introduced to the technology, gives teachers an opportunity to feel comfortable from classroom management and using devices in this way, but then also can connect to learning goals, whether it is narrative writing learning goals, whether it is more of a composition based. So writing in response to augmented reality experiences is something that I often recommend when teachers are first getting started or they're first exploring different types of integration for AR.
Would you be able to provide any valuable materials that we can add to this interview so the teachers can have access to them?
Absolutely. So on my blog, classtechtips.com, I have a section on scannable tech, which includes augmented reality. So I definitely have some articles I can share with you with some different activities, some favorite apps for getting started, and some resources that I've shared in the past that have been really well received.
Fantastic. Yes, we'll put it all in so the teachers can directly have a download and have a look what to try with. And another question that I had, I know that there are some already pre-planned lesson plans where they have a scenario of how to use certain augmented reality applications and solutions in a classroom. But from your professional experience, do you think that the teachers would actually prefer to have the ready-to-made lesson plans, or would they rather just have a tool, as for example, an application, and then they can plan by themselves around the curriculum that they use?
I think it's really nice to have pre-made lesson plans as an exemplar. So for teachers who are looking for inspiration, who are wrapping their head around what it even means to integrate this type of technology, having a pre-made lesson plan can be a wonderful starting point. But I think that for many people, there reaches a point where they want to have more ownership. They want to customize this experience for their students. So then being able to really control what it looks like in terms of creating a product is going to be really important. So I think it's a mix of both, right? There's going to be some people who always want that pre-made resource. There's going to be some people who really value the opportunity to create their own and will want that from the get-go. And then there's others who might need a little bit support and see those types of lesson plans as really just as an exemplar for helping them develop their own content down the line. And having it really through that lens will be the most crucial part. So I could see there being an argument for a few different things when it comes to developing lesson plans, having things really ready to go for students. So I think that there's definitely an appreciation for pre-made resources. But I know many people, including myself, who always like to kind of jump in once they feel a little bit more confident about something, and then their wheels start spinning after they see something that was pre-made, and then they're really ready to go through and create an experience that they would see as being just right for their group of students. So having that ability to take some ownership as an educator of what those experiences look like is really crucial. But I know myself included, right, having examples can really help, get us into a space where we can think about things from a high quality integration.
Well, thank you very much, Monica. It's very valuable, all the information that you shared with us today. And maybe there is something we haven't covered yet, and you still would like to share with us your practical experience or any recommendations for teachers, or for educators or organizations to use augmented reality.
Well, I'm happy to kind of come back and circle back to that ACES framework I mentioned earlier that's featured in my book on scannable technology, because I think it's important not to use those frameworks necessarily as evaluation tools, which sometimes happens in schools, but more to spark conversation. So that framework is really about access, so giving kids access to resources they wouldn't be able to easily access before, and I think augmented reality really gives them that opportunity, whether it's them scanning and seeing a resource pop off the page or them spinning something around with a pre-made tool. The C in the ACES framework is really about curation and the fact that teachers can hand-pick resources that are just right for their students, those kind of fill-in-the-blank experiences that someone needs in order to be successful. The E is engagement, which sometimes, as we mentioned, right, people see augmented reality and just think it's flashy and fun and they don't understand the educational value of it. When it comes to that E, engagement, we are really thinking about not the hook or the gotcha at the beginning of a lesson, but really the ability to have students be in the flow of learning, deeply engaged in an experience that is hands-on and high interest. And then the last part is that S, which is the share. And one thing that's really special about augmented reality, especially experiences that students create themselves or that teachers create to share resources is that you can create your own trigger images, you can have student work pop off the page, and it becomes a really wonderful way to share student work in interactive spaces as well. So that ACES framework is one I come back to when talking to teachers or traveling around. I know this afternoon I'm speaking to a group of teachers here in New Jersey specifically around virtual reality and scannable technology, so I'll be introducing the framework to them as well. And so with this sort of lens, I think it really helps us have conversations about purposeful integration and being really thoughtful. So anytime we can kind of come back to those anchors, I think it really helps us make a case for the power of emerging technologies, of innovative learning experiences, including augmented reality.
Well, thank you very much, Monica.
Oh, thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure to have you around with us, and thank you for sharing your opinion.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Everything changes.